From people management to discuss on the topic of HR helping navigate business back to usual in the new normal, would like to invite moderator of this session, who is also a domain expert in his own right, whole-time director, Silver Touch Technology Limited, Mr. Minesh Doshi.
Good morning, all of you. I am Minesh Doshi from Silver Touch Technologies, and I'll be moderating this session today. So, HR has to play a bigger role during and after COVID-19. Currently, COVID-19 is spreading like wildfire and creating havoc across the world. According to IMF, the world economy is predicted to shrink by 3%, while the economy of India will grow by mere 1.9% in 2020. According to the financial experts, we are inching towards one of the worst recessions the world has ever seen. This would have a serious impact on business depending on the sector. While some of these industries like healthcare, pharma, medicine equipment, online media and entertainment, e-learning, edtech, digital payment, fintech, video and teleconferencing, and few others will benefit in this situation. But most organizations would not. While some businesses will permanently close down, the rest will struggle, and only those who will be able to manage this downswing well will come out as a winner. With the current disruption in the industry, traditional ways to work have become things of the past. It is crucial for HR to revamp the policies and processes in accordance with the new normal. This is the time for HR to be strategic and to lead through this struggle. It's time for HR leaders to go through a soul-searching process. If your HR team does not focus on technology or data, it's time to do so now. Technology is HR's most important partner and can solve its greatest workplace challenges. The pandemic forced organizations to make significant changes to how the work is done, and the HR professionals become the first responders to all the employees. You are the ones your employees turn on to. They are looking to you for guidance. This is tough, emotional work, and I must say that hardworking HR professionals have risen to the challenge. In a very short period of time and without warning, HR professionals had a shift to virtual processes while they helped employees into working from home and guided them through furloughs and layoffs, and HR had to answer employees' questions, calm their fear, and make hard decisions that directly impact employees' lives and businesses. So with all this background, I would like to welcome most eminent panelists from the HR. Joyeeta Chatterjee. She is a Chief People Officer with Future Consumers Limited. Welcome, Joyeeta.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, and we have Manisha Prasad, Vice President and Head of HR India, CRIF Solutions Private Limited. They are into the fintech solutions.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, so welcome, Manisha and Joyeeta, and we are going to have a very exciting discussion around how HR will change the way we have been working in pandemic, and now it's almost 6 months, and everyone is experienced enough to understand the effects of pandemic on the organization, on the customer, on the vendors, on the suppliers, on the employees, and whole ecosystem. So my first question to Joyeeta, because he comes from the brick and mortar business where the work from home is not the option, right? And they have to engage the employees and everyone into the workplace. So what are the learnings, and what are your advice, from we already opened since last couple of months now. So opening the workplace and making sure that employees are well-being, their health is maintained, and everyone who is coming to the enterprises or the business place is having a safe interaction in pandemic. Joyeeta.
Sure. Thank you, Minesh. In fact, yes, the biggest challenge that we had was put everyone on work from home mode. while saying that, we were part of essential services, so we had to see that, which stores of us were open, how would people staying in containment zones would reach there, or even handling their fear and anxiety, not just their fear and anxiety, but their family members as well. Or for that matter, our supply chain network, opening up our DCs and, procurement centers, and, which were spread all across the country. And so I think, in a crisis situation, what I mean, we all saw was people were seriously raising up to the occasion. And that is which gives us a very good feel of the level of employee engagement. And it came across from majority of the organization, but from lot of sectors or segments where we were least expecting. People on the ground, they showed so much of enthusiasm and belief in the organization, and wanting to reach out to consumers and help them in this situation. So it was something which was very overwhelming. But on the same on the same line, we as an organization, as an HR function, we had to ensure that we were providing safe working, places. So a lot of norms were, listed down, huge amount of networking that we were doing with our HR, folks across, to see how, one is learning. So there was a lot of cross learning which was happening on the go, and trying to see what was more relevant for our kind of organization and scenario. Having those norms set up, then educating people, in terms of these safety and security measures, and, quickly procuring all those safety devices and stuff like that, and seeing it like, consistently being managed across all the locations. That was one big aspect when I talk about opening up some of our, supply chain setups and some of our stores. The bigger challenge was also that despite doing all of that, there was still a lot of labor issues. People were migrating, people were not coming, so production was getting affected. So going through that channel and constantly trying to reach out to people, giving them that belief and conviction that it's safe to come and work. A lot of new policies we had to deploy, right? I mean, in terms of transport allowance, or possibly giving some transport, local transport, or pool in with people staying in same locality. Quickly went around trying to see who all was staying in a given locality, and if they could, pool into work together. Or if they were working day and night in that situation, where would they get food, access to food? So maybe supplying them with food. So it was, across all those aspects were the first step when we're talking about the back end. But with respect to people working in the offices, we never thought that working from home would come in so quickly. So I think we were very thankful to our IT folks for ensuring that, availability of laptops was done very quickly for across the board, all people. And also we had to partner up to see what access to be given. So all those, scenarios where we used to feel that, no, there is a security issue and we cannot provide access, all of them went off the window, and we had to provide those access rights to people. And so those were the first steps. What we were also trying to do parallelly was communication. So, the kind of communication channels, and kind of equipping our leaders to use them from time to time, how to use them. Lot of communication about our COVID champions, so that acknowledgement and positive reinforcements had to be done from time to time. So there was a lot of those kind of stories and insights about people who really made a very good mark trying to reach out to our customers. That was being done. And then somewhere in the whole process started coming in the impact on cost. That, we were clearly seeing that, over month after month, we started seeing that, hey, listen, what we thought that maybe over in a month or two is really stretching. And if that's the case, what kind of, impact it would have on our costs, right? And therefore workforce planning was coming into the picture. So, from the first phase of being a softer part of HR, we had to quickly gradually move into the tougher aspect of taking in some decisions about which teams or which roles were becoming redundant in the current scheme of things, and implementing all of that. and impact of that. Like, in this kind of a COVID situation, if you're asking someone to let go, how we can make it little softer to people. So, but we had to deal with both of these scenarios at the same time. So it has been, you have to be thinking constantly on the go, and keep, be honest, communicate and empathize with people in the situation, yet, take all the right business calls.
Yeah, thank you, Joyeeta. I think that's give a great insight. What has all efforts gone into from the HR to start the operations, to normalize the operation, and to keep it running. And very important, as you said, that it's stretching. So we thought initially of 1 month or 3 months, and now it's 6 months, and now we started calling it is a new normal. So all the processes of the HR would change in the new normal. The onboarding practices for new employees need to be reviewed to align them to the organization vision and goal, while ensuring a seamless remote joining experience, because most of the employees are not coming to the office. The entire employee journey will have to be planned as the HR gets ready to the new challenges that come along with the distributed virtual atmosphere. So this could mean that the modification of recruitment practices, reward and recognition policies, engagement initiatives, exit formalities, and everything in between. So my next question to Manisha is that, how do you foresee HR deliverables like recruitment, employee development, employee retentions undergo a change, especially from the experience of employee, how they will experience all these things in a new normal?
Sure. So Minesh, let me start from the basic of how we as HR evolved, right? Going back traditionally in the industry, HR was always a role which was considered more as a monitor, right? More like a policeman who creates a framework. Eventually, it moved into becoming an advisor to the business. COVID probably acted as a catalyst for us to quickly, move in from an advisor to take the driver's seat now. And it realized that the entire BCP was driven by HR all of a sudden, and that's where my personal experience also was in the last couple of months, where we quickly shifted our gears and moved in from becoming a supporter to a driver. We did a lot of things. In fact, if you look at it, how I look at HR is the strength of HR is being resilient, how strong we are and how quickly we are reacting to the ask of the business to ensure in times of challenges. So taking calls overnight about moving the entire organization into work from home wasn't something which was easy, but yes, you had to trigger multiple levers at the same time. I mean, understanding from technology, the requirement, going back to the employees, asking for their conditions, their residence locations, how they have been commuting, how they have been communicating, the infrastructure at their place. All of the data management became very critical all of a sudden to HR. Thankfully, we collaborated very well with our technology team. And a lot of which, I mean, by virtue of being a technology organization, we were thankfully proactive in our arrangements on a couple of areas. One is about, various interfaces with technology to ensure a smooth onboarding experience, a smooth recruitment experience, a smooth employee engagement experience, as well as the reward. So if we talk about some of the key things which are important in the employee life cycle, right from, how would we take interviews now because we're not calling people to office, and how would I see if this is the same candidate whom I interview? So we started moving towards video conferencing on the interviews to cut down the cycle. We had multiple leaders, thanks to technology, that we have multiple panelists taking the interviews at the same time, aligning, reducing the recruitment cycle, getting people onboarded online with a digital onboarding system, which was already on the way. But yes, we actually acted fast and made it live during this COVID times. So digital onboarding was one of the things which we actually quickly evolved and made it happen. Knowledge management actually made us, we all of a sudden realized that knowledge management was very important. And this is where we started using it. So there were a lot of onboarding sessions which happened by virtue of we already having those knowledge management tools in place. So we could now quickly leverage all of those and utilize it for onboarding people seamlessly into the project, into the role, into the organization, helping them understand the culture, process, policies, all of that. So I think some of the key things which are important for HR to understand is how best we collaborate and how optimally we leverage on the technology as a function and in the organization becomes very crucial. Productivity, which was very, very important, because yes, the first question asked by my CEO was, how do I recover revenues now? I mean, the COVID time is not ending. And if I keep hearing the, term which says new normal. To me, I don't call it as a new normal in HR. In HR is the next normal. I mean, I will have to continuously keep moving to meet the requirement with the change situation. So it's a next normal, and how do I prepare myself for the future next normal, which is coming to me now. So yes, recovering revenue was the most important question which business had, and the question they had from me as an HR was, how do I support that? I was looking at three aspects. I mean, for HR, it's more of a pragmatic and an intuitive approach, right, which HR has to adopt. So an emotional wellness, a physical wellness, and a financial wellness of employees. So how do I look at various policies, systems, processes, what I have, to make sure that all of the three aspects for an employee is being met while they are working with us? So we did a lot of things. We did a lot of policy changes. Now for future, we are preparing ourselves for a smart working policy. We have already released, made arrangements, and did our homework that whenever we start working from office, we are going to have a smart working policy. We have a tool in place which talks about if someone has to come to work, someone can already book their seat and come to work. So we are actually sensitizing our people about this new, way of working, new mode of working. We are educating our people about the various tools which we have launched in the last 5 months to make sure that when they come back to work, they are fully equipped with the new ways of working. So there are a lot of things which we are doing at the same time. Productivity, of course, being a technology firm, productivity was also one of the key questions which we had. And we quickly shifted our focus as HR. We shifted our focus. We educated our managers that don't measure productivity by the number of hours, but measure productivity by KPIs. So we moved our entire performance management system by introducing KPIs in the meantime. So now we have a tool which is called Jira. I'm sure people who are in technology would understand that. So we have a tool, Jira, through which we monitor the productivity. It makes it easier for us, irrespective whether a person is working from office or logging in through a VPN network at home or anywhere in the world. So we are able to measure the productivity by some of these basic, stand-up meetings every day. We do a scrum meeting every day. We give a clear-cut goals for the day, a clear-cut task for the day to avoid any confusion. I think these are some of the things which I can quickly think of, which we did to prepare our workforce and support the business.
Thank you, Manisha. Indeed, this helps, because the way technology has embraced the HR functionality, which is on the peak, if you see all the HR functions in past, and the HR has embraced the technology very well, and try to integrate the entire workforce into one, and make policy changes over the performance management and efficiency management and time clocking and things like that. But coming back to the employees, when now I think almost 6 months when employees are working either from home or at the workplace, and I refer to Joyeeta's earlier discussion on communication. So it's very important now for HR or the organization to have the active communication with employees. So it's very natural that a global pandemic will cause your employees to feel anxious, uncertain, and distracted, while it could take a toll on your productivity levels, because we don't know the employees well-being. They are infected, or their family members are infected, or they may have lost some family members during pandemic. So many of our employees, they also require to work from home at this time, and which can intensify the disengagement with the organization, their colleagues, and the way they were working earlier. So how do we keep the employees motivated up, and what are the new communication techniques for HR, which will help the employee to be more engaged with the organization? So I would like to ask this to Joyeeta, that what is the best way to keep employees motivated and engaging, and what are the communication techniques we can have in place post COVID scenario?
Sure. So, in fact, as managers and as leaders, many people feel that we are not able to see what is happening and whether people are working or not. And so, many colleagues went through that whole process of disbelief and distrust. But I think very soon, everybody realized that trusting employees is very, very essential at this point in time, and being empathetic, because there are people who are living with their families and the entire family hold together in a small house, or for that matter their little children, and they have their online classes going on. Everything is online these days, so one has to kind of manage the whole situation and yet work from home. So empathy and trusting and having very straight conversation was something which was very key to the whole process. However, along with that, as Manisha mentioned, that working with KPIs is very important, and breaking those KPIs into weekly targets. So like sitting together, that's what what we were kind of encouraging our managers and leaders to do was talk about the outcome, overall outcome, break it into what are the, let's say, the weekly deliverables in agreement, and then you review it at the end of the week of where things are going and stuff like that, and fix up periodic calls, Zoom, and all these online virtual medias of reaching out and connecting people. And that has been working very well. Initially, we were not forcing people to switch on the video mode. We were not, because we really didn't know how they would be coping up in the back end. But over the last few months, I think people are also having the need of seeing their colleagues, because it's been such a long time. Nobody expected that they won't see their people. So we've started having virtual coffee sessions, sometimes where we are not discussing about work. So it's a combination of, periodic reviews, periodic team, calls over Zoom, and, or any of the other platforms. Some of the engagement sessions, plus we have been having a lot of learning initiatives. These days there is so much of content and available online. There are so many service providers. They've come up with a lot of solutions. Initially many of them were extended free of cost to us, so that people use it and kind of experience it, and eventually move into that platform. So we made full use of all of those lot of those free sessions. We had access to a lot of speakers, people who are subject matter experts in their own area. I mean, in these times we have also seen that most of them are very absolutely open to kind of come and discuss share their learnings. So we have been having a lot of those sessions organized. And I mentioned about engagement, that we have been doing a lot of employer branding and internal employer branding and communication to talk about some of the highlights and the wins and experiences, and which works very well.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. When you say the communication and employees are not looking on the videos, I'm sure many of the employees have worked on their personal health, and you find them in a new avatar when they switch on the video. And because the pandemic moved them to be more cautious about their own personal health, and that has really helped everyone to get the me time and to work on their physic or their health issues. And yeah, I think it's very important for HR to communicate in time, and communicate about the new ways and new do's and don'ts, because the new workplace is online or a virtual workplace, and that has created a new problems or the new challenges for HR and managers to manage the employee. But fortunately, the new normal will not be without challenges. So employee performance measurement we already discussed, and I think Manisha talked about it. But the data suggests that the employees are working longer hours during the pandemic when they are working from home, and have experienced a significant drop in absenteeism, during the crisis. They are always available, or they are not on leave because there are no social functions or events happening. The organization feel that the employees have showcased commendable agility and resilience to adapt to the new ways of working, including online and coming to workplace as few days in a week and so on. However, the ability to sustain this momentum poses an immediate challenge to the organization. This enthusiasm could be short-lived, as a job security is driving force for most of the employee in the current situation. As the market sees an improvement, productivity may roll back to the pre-COVID levels. So these are all the experiences what everyone is going through. And for HR, it is the best time when the employee productivity is at peak. But how do you ensure that this productivity stays at this level, and how do we make sure that new measurement performance levels are set up into the companies, or new performance benchmarks are created for the employees? So, Manisha, if you can help us with this, and many of this IT and mostly the service organization having these problems.
Sure. So, Minesh, let me take this in a slightly different perspective. Okay, so what we are talking about is we all of us now realize that all the entire workforce is working in a boundaryless world. Actually, if you look at it, right? So there's no demarcation between the office hours and when does typically earlier days when I used to come back home, say by 7:38, I used to be mentally switched off for a while in between that, yes, I have completed my task for the day and I can be free with my family now, right? Obviously, I mean, taking calls and something which is critical goes as a part and parcel of the day. But now we have realized in the last 5 months that there is no boundary now, there are no timelines, right? Because of the momentum in which we are working, we tend to continue to work, respond to emails, take up calls at late at night also. Incidentally, if I look at it and how I, when I'm in my interactions with the colleagues in the industry, I realize that quite a lot of organizations have not seen a significant change in terms of the way employees are taking this up. So more or less for me, fortunately, the employees have not come out with, significant stress levels which has gone up, because somewhere they realize that there has been a flexibility in the time what they're exercising now, so that equilibrium, right, for future has to be sought out between the control and the autonomy, between the limitations and the flexibility. So these are the 4 factors within which we as HR and as an organization will have to drive the ecosystem to attain an equilibrium in the future. How do we do it? Some of the things which are working well now in the times of challenges, like measuring people on KPI, like engaging people virtually, has fortunately resulted us in more engagement now for people, because somewhere when we were conducting events in office, we could hardly drive participation because people were glued to their laptops and desktops at workplace, taking calls and meetings. What we realized in past 5 months, we have been doing continuous Friday activities, fun activities, and almost 400 employees log into those virtual WebEx meeting, because there is an excitement of seeing each other, there is an excitement of interacting with each other, getting all of them on the same platform. So that has created an extended bond in people. So I think we'll have to constantly monitor amongst all of these that what goes well, even in the time of challenges, will continue to help us and sustain even during the normal times in future, right, when it comes. So some things we may want to change, some things we may not want to change, and probably continue the learnings there. For that matter, online learning. We always talk about, unlearning, learning, reskilling. I think the only softer aspects which were required to be focused on during these pandemic times were, it was not about skilling my employees on the technology, right? My employees already knew when they were working, and they were constantly, enhancing themselves on the capabilities, on the role. But what was important for them to be taught now is how comfortable you are to work in a virtual world. How do you collaborate best with people globally? I mean, mine is a metrics kind of an organization. People anyways have been working in a virtual world, right? Collaborating with teams in Italy, Germany, and all the places. We took this time to do a lot of cultural orientation for my people. So we did a lot of online, classes and sessions on cultural orientation across the globe. We launched a lot of self-learning courses. We actually introduced an app in the organization, which was more of a social interaction app for an employee, where all the employees across the globe shared their own self-learning videos, what all they are taking up, has been their routine. So it was like telling everyone as a colleague that you're not alone in this. We are all together in this. So this is how I'm utilizing my time. This is how I'm managing my work-life balance. So there have been learnings from each other. There have been, challenges which we have sailed through along with each other. And some of these, I'm sure, by now we understood that how important is technology in all of these, right? The role that technology plays. So I think I really cannot comment on what could be stopped and what could be continued. But yes, we got to be equally vigilant in future also. What has worked well definitely should not be stopped. And we will evolve, as we come to we come to the next normal way of working.
No, I think, Manisha, this is very rightly said that what is good or what is the better for organization has to be continued, right? And this is the side effect, or I would say the side outcome of the pandemic, where everyone is working in a virtual environment, and that has really increased the productivity of the employees and better management for the businesses, the line manager, and of course the reduction in cost, because a lot of office space and the other expenses have been curtailed now. Okay, but this has always been a discussion that employees engage well in a team when they are in office, and sometimes many of the young employees, they are away from home, and they are working in metro cities, and the office is always there, the social gathering as well, and the friends and everything is around that, and that has significantly changed now. So Joyeeta, what the question again comes back after 6 months is employee well-being. Of course, the corona infection is one of the criteria where we can't help really if they are working remotely or working from home. But as the everything settles down, and HR has to set up and support their employees and prioritize their mental and emotional well-being, because they are not often discussing their problems within the colleagues or their managers, and HR has a major role here, and this time, the very difficult time can induce anxiety and raise the stress level of a person, and when they are living far from the from the office and their normal working environment. So how do you think, Joyeeta, that what are the key points HR should think about employees well-being? Of course, you come from brick and mortar, so you always have employees well-being as employees physically coming to office, as well as the employees who are coming who are working virtually. So this is very important, and this has come up as a new challenge to the HR.
Sure. So, in fact, a lot of companies are now moving and subscribing to employee assistance program, which takes care of, be it doctors on call or counselors on call, and which is seriously something which has become a need of the hour, because obviously, as you said, there are a lot of people who are staying alone and finding it very difficult not to interact with, the outside world and talking to people, or, having access to and outside world, right, in that sense. So tying up with some of these kind of avenues, managers again have a very, very big role to play over here to keep sight of each and every team member of theirs. So today what we have we're seeing every day is that they know far more about things happening in their personal front, the team members' personal front, than it was ever possible. How their kids look, to what is their financial situation, to everything. So there are companies, including our own company, like we made access to insurance scheme, which employees only had to sign up in addition if they wish to, but tie up with better rates for higher level of insurance policies and stuff like that. So it's a combination of things which companies are doing Plus, there are a lot of companies now, they're providing assistance to buy office equipments and chairs and, maybe internet access or reimbursing telephones. So there is a lot of momentum around that also, because we know that this hybrid way of working, where, maybe 100% of the workforce may never go back to work in the office space. So in that situation, companies are kind of providing access to a lot of these new benefits, so to say, leaves, sick leaves, and these are also being relooked at, how to redesign the leave policy. Working hours getting regularized is another big aspect which is coming into picture, because as we discussed in this session, in the initial few minutes, that all these months everybody was rising up to the situation and they were working overtime, be it for rising up to this situation, working overtime, or because of the sense of, fear and anxiety of losing their jobs. But gradually, if this is the new normal, then, as we said, that, this stretching may soon stop. But even, whether it stops voluntarily or not, as an organization, we need to now get mindful that if this is a regular phase of life, how do we become more empathetic towards people's family and personal space as well as the professional space? Right, so those are a few of the things which are happening big time, and as I said, that there are so much of job cuts which are happening across the across all organizations. So being mindful of how to deal with it, how to assist people during this process, how to give it a softer landing as far as possible. So different companies are doing things differently given their I would say how deep pockets they have, and what kind of visibility that they have on the impact of this COVID situation.
Yeah, I think it's very important, and I have been talking to a lot of HR professionals, and they often say that now we know many personal things about employee, because they keep sharing with us, and the HR has become most relevant now than ever before, because the employee's perspective, they often think their manager and their department or their business line is important for them to interact and solve all the problem. And when they have any issue which they can't solve within the environment, they come to HR. But now HR is like a torch bearer in pandemic times, and everyone is looking up to HR because the problems are new and everyone is trying to find the solution to it. So communication is the key, and as you said, that the empathy, which is the new thing which has come into the HR, because the Indian HR is more transactive, fulfilling the business needs, doing the talent management, acquisition, and they have a lot of pressure on the manpower planning and fulfilling side. But now it has changed to the empathy, and how they will manage the employees well-being, the mental well-being, and how the operations will be up and running. So talent is a crucial thing, always. Manisha, you come from the IT background, and talent is always a crucial, and the pandemic has proved it. So finding and hiring the right people, learning and growing them, managing and rewarding the performance, tailoring the experience of employee, optimizing the workforce planning and strategy. So these are the new thinking which the HR has to do. And how do you see the talent management piece, the entire talent management piece will be done post pandemic? Do you see any major changes coming in, or a small tweaks to all this process which is already in place, Manisha?
So two parts to it, Minesh. One is that how we have been doing this in terms of a talent management. So when I say talent management, it's just not about inducting the external talent into the organization, but how well are you also, how optimally are you also utilizing the workforce, and how strategically you're planning it with your current existing workforce, right? So two things which we learned, actually not learned, we were always doing it, but I guess we did it more prominently now, right, during these times. One was about, obviously, because we are talking about cost, HR did have an impact on the cost, where we had to look, scrutinize on what is essential now in this year and what can be possibly postponed to the next year. So we had to review, I'm sure most of the organizations have reviewed the talent management, budgeting, and the decision making and all that around that, right? So we also did that. The first few steps which we did was, most importantly, we had to give that reassurance to our employees that yes, the jobs are sustaining. Fortunately, in our organizations, we have been able to do it very efficiently, because we tried to reduce or eliminate in the periphery. So we were trying to look at wherever there were scope of projects and assignments which were outsourced, how can we best, get it inside, and try to deploy the workforce for whom it wasn't possible to work from, office and working from home. How do we deploy them at the right places by equipping them with the right kind of skills? So all this was, done. Of course, business and the leaders have been really supportive. We have worked hand in hand in the last couple of months to make sure that we are doing that. First of all, analyzing the skill, doing a skill mapping within the organization, understanding who comes with what kind of background and skills. How best can that be utilized in places where there has been a gap all this while? So I think those skill mapping and redeployment within the system itself has become all the more crucial. Then, identifying the right talent from the market. So obviously, wherever there is a gap and we are not able to bridge internally, we had to look at external markets. The market was, fortunately for me, it was easier for us to find a good talent at the right time. So what we have done proactively as an HR, as a strategy, was we continuously kept hunting for the right talent in the market. So we have been building our database well. We have been in connect with the right kind of candidates and right kind of skills in the market, because the hiring wasn't much higher in the last 5 months. So we utilized that time well to get that kind of connect and be grounded in the market. So I think that has helped. And now we realize that is something which has to be on an ongoing basis, and not just now in the current times. So I think talent management, both perspectives have to be looked at, the external and the internal. So redeployment becomes the key. Mobility and upskilling becomes the key, right, for utilizing your talent at the right places. So
yeah, I think it's very interesting to learn, for everyone, that even if you're not hiring, like, finding the key talent from the industry is always a smart thing for HR. So when the organization need it, in the expansion phase or for the replacement of the existing resources, that becomes really handy. And I think these are the changes which has come on the talent management aspect, and many of you have been innovating a lot of things, that how the talent management piece, or any other HR functions can be managed. Now coming back to you, Joyeeta, that HR is always instrumental in helping managers to do 6 specific activity to manage their employees. So number 1 is sense employees need for support. The manager, it's very important. Promote the dialogue between employees and management to build the understanding. Have clear objectives to create clarity and vision within the organization or the employees who are working. 4th, reinforce the organization values to reduce the likelihood of misconduct or organization behavior issues. 5th is tailor recognition to acknowledge employees' effort. It's very important that they are working in such a difficult time, and we acknowledge them more often than we were doing it in past pre-pandemic stage. And drive engagement via innovation, because that's very important that the innovation has to happen in this pandemic time also. So for HR, the HR leaders like you and many other HR on this show today, so how HR leaders can adapt to the uncertain times what we are facing right now, and how they can help the managers and leaders within the organization to do all these things, perform things better.
Sure. So I think one of the biggest thing is being tech savvy. I think while people who are already part of the tech industry, they are, ahead of the curve as against many others, right? So, HR has to be equally tech savvy because, it is, you know, technology is now in the driver's seat, right? I mean, it's no more just an enabler, but that
Right.
is where the transformation is coming in. So adapting that, being agile, because as we said that, we were in the front seat, trying to, kind of help everybody else cope with, the current situation. So agility and constantly thinking and planning for the unknown, so dealing with uncertainty, change management, those things are very important for HR professionals, and also so that they can help their colleagues. So today what we are seeing is that we are becoming more and more as a coach and a guide to our peers and colleagues in the organization to deal with some of these competencies and help them to bring about resilience is the other bit, because with so much of uncertainty, I mean, we have to stay calm first, and so that we can provide that comfort and calmness to other people around, because people still look up to us. And while we may be wondering that I really don't know what is coming next, but I have to showcase that calm and composed self of mine, so that I can deal with the person. So those are very important. And repeatedly my input to everybody around is be transparent and be honest and be empathetic. I think most of the challenges can be resolved very easily, and that is what every organization, every leader, every manager is trying to do. And that helps, because I mean, we don't know what is there. So I mean, and there is no harm in saying that we don't know, let's figure it out together, right?
Right. Yeah, I think it's very very important, and I've seen the HR, the way they have adapted to the new situation, and this adaptation is coming as the situation changes, because as you rightly said, that we don't know what is coming next, right? And that is the biggest challenge what the humans are facing right now, that there can be uncertainty from the government, or there can be uncertainty from the policies, there can be uncertainty from the business. And that's very very important aspect, when the HR is working with the business hand in hand, and you are on driver's seat. So we have a lot of questions coming in, but I think we are running out of time. So I have a few questions, or last question for Manisha, specifically for you. So this pandemic is a business transformation opportunity for HR. So as you said, the HR is being looked at by everyone to help and support, and you said you are on driver's seat, and HR is really doing a significant amount of policy making, and the workplace rules and do's and don'ts, and everything is set up by the HR now. So the last week, there was a global HR conference, and I heard that human resource professionals should make use of the COVID-19 crisis to shake up the profession, and challenge long-held principles and become more agile. So it clearly indicates that a lot of work to be done for HR. Add to that questions, the currently a lot of things flooding to HR in large part, which is impossible to answer, coming from employee about the job security or uncertainty in business. So most of the primary HR systems are configured to answer most basic employees inquiries, but the inquiries which is coming now is totally new. And so the transformation is the key for HR in the post pandemic era. How do we see the future organization? So because we have the working hours, the location of employees, even the work arrangements, everything has become fluid, nothing is fixed. The remote working, the work from home is to be an integral part of every organization now. And we have seen that many global organizations announced till March 21, and many have announced for the lifetime. the popularity of contractual jobs and freelancers, will grow in India, which is not there currently, but I think it's definitely growing. And we see a lot of trends coming in, and HR has to really see how they can mold or how they can adapt to this particular scenario. The workforce needs constant upgrade in the skills and reskillings and the capability enhancement. So these are the things which is coming to HR. Focus on learning and development will be increased, because a lot of e-learning is coming in place, and a lot of online material is there. And I'm sure you have created a lot of online libraries and everything within the organization. So Manisha, all these things happening, and it's very busy for every HR professional to work in a pandemic situation. So what do you think, that what are the major areas where transformation will come in coming days, and what do you think that HR should transform, which is aligned with the business need? So the two different aspects, one which is coming, and one what you think, because you work more closely with business now. So what do you think that HR should transform, which is aligned to business needs and the future?
So Minesh, basically what we try to do in HR is try to solve the people-related business challenges, right? To make sure that it all continues, right? So they have a smooth focus on how to get the revenues. I mean, how to meet the top line and the bottom, control the bottom line. So nothing is, casted in stone, right? Brick and stone here in terms of. I think for me as a professional, I have always been someone who moves away from the defined way of doing things, because I want to make myself an HR relevant, right, to the requirement, to the situation. If I look at transformation, what is required for the organization, some of the key criteria or the parameters which are important for business continuity would be how do you keep your workforce engaged? How do you keep your workforce relevant in terms of competency and the skills to suit the business need for future? Thirdly, how do you engage and make your workforce productive, which comes in from various factors, right? So I think what was critical for all of us in the last 6 months was to make sure that there is a emotionally well and healthy employee who gives his or her 100% to the organization, right? To make someone productive is to ensure that the person is emotionally happy, engaged into the organization, reassured that yes, we are there to help them or to support them. So the ways of thinking have changed for us. I have changed the perspective and how I define. I'll just give you an example, right? We will look all this while traditionally in most of the organization, we have a budget for HR for employees, right? Where we say that, this is to be used for fun element, right? The project parties and all, how to use it. For us, it wasn't required this year, right? Because we are hardly encouraging any of the gatherings, we are hardly meeting. So how do you do the project parties? But at the same time, how do I shift that focus and make it relevant for my employees? We went ahead and introduced a lot of things which were important for the employees in the last 5 months and will continue to be important for them in future. So now we have adopted that way of doing things. So where we said we changed the working policy. We are moving towards a smart working policy. We introduced an internet reimbursement allowances, a telephone reimbursement allowance. We quickly shifted and introduced a lot of things which were important and relevant for people. So we're not working like a traditional HR where we say that no matter what the situation is, this is how it is defined and this is how we're going to do. But we said, yes, right now what is important for employees apart from insurances, there were struggles. Our offices are in Mumbai and Pune. There were struggles about, getting an ambulance services. We quickly tied up with an ambulance service provider in April and we launched that scheme saying that this is especially for CRIF employees. Please go ahead whenever you are in need, call up this number, and as a CRIF employee, you will be given an ambulance service on priority. We had doctors on call 24/7, which we made available in April itself. So there were a lot of things which kept us on toes because we are also human beings, right? So what we could think of is what is required by an employee to make sure that he or she is, physically and mentally relaxed to be able to focus on work, and productivity is important. And that's where we shifted our focus on a lot of policies now. We talked about productivity, of course, because we were proactive enough to follow KPIs as a mode of measuring productivity. There was also an element of, because we work with millennials, there was also an element of keeping them engaged, right? So beyond the boundaries is what I was talking about. Now, being a fintech organization, whenever you log into the server or you use an office device or a tool, there are restrictions all over, right, to ensure that the data is protected. How do I actually ease it for my employees? So right now, we were working with our technology team, also trying to enable if there could be some possibility of people getting an access to social media as a break from their working hours, right? As a break, to refresh themselves. So we're working on that along with the technology people, where we say that, yes, you are working 8 hours, you're working 10 hours, you're working 24/7 to build up a software or probably supporting the clients. You're probably allowed to surf net, get into social media, take a refresher 15 minutes break, and then come back to the site to work. So some of the things are changing in terms of the way we look at those boundary and set definitions of how HR looks at things and the environment. So I think culturally, as I said, always it's a big transition for all of us. At the same time, was it a COVID which was required for us to build in this perspective? As I always say, did we all require a COVID to change our perspective, to build up trust in our employees, to look at things in an empathetic way, to connect with employees more? When we were physically present, we were not connecting. When we are virtually connecting, we know all the more about our colleagues and our employees. So I think it's time for all of us to think, refocus, continue with the ways which have worked well for us now as human beings. And it's a continuous learning cycle for all of us.
Thank you so much, Manisha. It's very very interesting to know that how relevant we are in the current era. And how we can keep employees happy and engaging. That's the most important aspect. Which has come up. And the most important is the emotional and health wellness of the employee. So these are some key takeaways. Where all HR has to work towards. In this pandemic era. We have a lot of questions coming in, but I think we are now closing because it's already 1, and we have the official break right now. So thank you so much, Manisha and Joyeeta. It was very, very intense discussion on various aspects of HR. And I'm sure, there is a lot of takeaway for all the participants, and our fellow HR fraternity who is listening to this. And we are all welcoming them to contribute, whatever innovations they have done on the HR, to the GESIA platform. And GESIA can be a platform to, distribute and connect all the HR thought leadership, and take advantage of this platform from now onwards. And it's everything is becoming virtual. The learning is also virtual for us. And I'm sure this discussion is very fruitful for everyone, and there is a lot of takeaway from it. So thank you very much, and I thank you all the participants on behalf of GESIA and DMC and all the organizers. Thank you.
Thank you.